Okay, this is going to be actually a pretty short video. And I don't know what the story is, whether it's correct totally. Pretty sure it is. But it's just on the whole shadow issue here. Something that wasn't right when I first watched it. I have stayed away from these kind of the bunks of this TFE. But this is something that just doesn't seem right, I have to say. From a realistic point of view, this does not seem right. I've attacked this whole TFE in a different way. You can see my last two videos. It's more of an attack on their claim concerning it than anything else, rather than pointing out anything with the TFE as far as the 24-hour sun goes, there's faults or real or anything like that. Other people have focused on that, but the shadow issue doesn't. This thing to me doesn't make any sense. Now, I'm going to show you what I mean. Okay, 1 second now. As I said, this could be a nothing burger, but I actually do think it has, because it's something simplistic, and often the simplistic things are the things that are the most devastating. So Mount Rossman is 1,450 meters, right? That's its elevation, right? There you are, Mount Rossman elevation 1,450. Now, 1,450 elevation, I have to presume, I'm going to presume here, is off of sea level, right? Elevation of camp service in Antarctica 700 meters, Union Glacier Camp 700 meters, it says here. 700 meters, there we are, elevation, Union Glacier Camp 700 meters, right? So 700 meters from 1,450 meters, it leaves 750 meters, right? So if we just go to Google Earth here, right, you can see here is 3 kilometer, I have a 3 kilometer radius around Mount Rossman here, and the sun is obviously reasonably low in the sky. You have shadows here that are, this is all stitched together photographs, it's bizarre, but it is what it is. That's what we get from Google. And you can see the shadows are stretching way out here, and if I just zoom in here, you can see what appears to be man-made structures here. Okay, you can see up here this is north, so that would be looking south. This way would be looking south towards Union Glacier. So if the sun is behind Union Glacier here, this shadow should be around here, right? Around pointing in this way, right? If that's north and that's south, if the sun is behind Union Glacier, then obviously the shadow should be pointing here. Wherever the sun is, the shadow points basically in that direction, right? Away from the sun. So, if that's the best way to describe it. So, point being is this, right? Here I have Union Glacier image, right? And it's at 7.5, right? So let's just say we use that as kilometers, and or meters. That's 750 meters. Let's just say, right? Now, if Mount Rossman, sorry, should I say, if Mount Rossman is 750 meters above Union Glacier Camp, right? Right, if it's 1,450 off its sea level, which is what elevation is taken from, and Union Glacier 700, that makes, from Union Glacier Camp, is going to make Mount Rossman 750 meters, right? Now, if I wanted to measure the elevation to the sun at about when it's behind the Mount Rossman, like it's shown in, I just go back again a sec, like it's shown here, right? So if I want to measure the elevation of the sun via the shadow of Mount Rossman, right, then to get an elevation of 13.4, this is 13.392, but let's say 13.4 degrees, which is what it would be about when it's around the back of here. It'd be between 13 and 15 degrees, somewhere around that, right? Then I would have to have a shadow length of over 3 kilometers, right? So the length of that shadow would have to be over 3 kilometers for me to get, because I'm going to start at the very tip of the shadow, right, to get my elevation, or to the sun. like with Eratosthenes. You know what I mean? When he did it, he had an 80 something. It was a 7.24 in that claim, 7.24 zenith angle, but his elevation was 80, whatever it is, 80 whatever. I'm useless at maths like that. I always require a calculator and I knew that kind of thing in my head. Other maths, no, other different processes, easy for me, but that I have to think about. But either way, is over 80 something degrees of an elevation angle to the sun via the shadow from the obelisk in Alexandria, with the sun directly over the well in Siam, right? So if I use that same process here with Mount Rossman, to measure an elevation angle to the sun of 13.4 degrees, right, when it's around the back of Mount Rossman here, then the shadow length would have to be over 3 kilometers. So, is that what we see in the image? Right? See, the thing is this, right? I've heard figures thrown around from people like Austin Whitsitt of their distance between where they were and the mountain, as far as where they were doing the observation and the mountain, of 1.5, 2 kilometers, 2.5, that kind of thing. Now, even if they were, let's just say, 5 kilometers, right, away, which I don't think they were, the point is that they also had, if I just kind of go, sorry, right, I'll bring it over here. Now, they had these other hills and stuff behind them that was a big distance from them. So, like, they definitely would have seen a long shadow to Mount Rossman. That's what I would reckon anyway. I don't see how you couldn't see this big long shadow. Even if you were here, you'd have to be able to see this shadow. It'd have to be greater than what it would have to be. Well, I know you're looking in the horizontal, so it's a bit more difficult in the horizontal. But what I would say is that if I come in here, one second now. If I come in here, there is some what appears to be man-made structures here, square structures. Now, nature doesn't give us squares, so I'm taking it that's probably, and there's some ice scraping, what appears to be having going on there in some way, and you can see different tracks here. So you'd have to kind of say they're vehicle tracks, right? So if the camp was let's just say here somewhere, then you would have to notice a big shadow. It doesn't make sense that there's no shadow. I have to say, that doesn't make any sense that there isn't a shadow. And I don't like going down this road, going down the road of conspiracy and stuff, but it just doesn't make sense that there isn't a shadow. But if they were looking at Mount Rossman and it's 750 meters above Union Glacier Camp, then the shadow would have to be 3 kilometers for anyone to use the shadow to measure an elevation angle to the sun. Right, when it's around the back there, to get a 13.4 degree elevation angle when it's kind of directly behind, right? Because they're at 79 degrees south or whatever, right? So you'd have to you're going to have an elevation angle or you're going to have a shadow that'll match your elevation angle. Now, what will you twist or turn it? If they're claiming a 13.4 degree elevation to the sun when it's around the back here, then where's the shadow? The shadow, if they were 2 kilometers away, then the shadow would have to be over where they were at some point. But in the footage, there's no shadow over, like where they are, there's no shadow outside of the shadows of the tripods and the people. There's no shadow coming upon them from any of Mount Rossman or any of the hills around them. Now you would think that for to get a 13.4 degree angle, elevation angle using the shadow, that shadow would have to stretch, if they're 2 kilometers away, would have to stretch past where they were. I don't know. See, the thing about it is, I'm not sure how far away they were from Mount Rossman, but as I said, I heard from Austin Whitsitt, I've heard him say 1.5, 2 kilometers, and I've heard that around 2 kilometers claim being thrown around. Now, I don't know if it was more than 2 kilometers, but here you can see that if I come in here, I'm not seeing any tracks and stuff in the same way in these areas If I go back, this is a couple of kilometers. Out here is the Union Glacier Station, but they were here looking straight at Mount Rossman. They weren't off over here. So that would be a few kilometers away, maybe if they were there. But from what I initially heard was that they were at this side of Mount Rossman because the camp was in here, and they needed to be at this side because when the sun goes around at the back here, that it would block their view to it. The mountain would block their view to it because the camp is close to the mountain. So they need to be over here where they're a bit further away from the mountain and where the sun wouldn't get blocked by the mountain. That was the claim. Now, they're shown degrees of 13.4. Now, I'm not saying they measured any of these things. I'm just saying this is the claim, that there would have to be a 13.4 degree angle between them and the GP of the sun. From what, if it's all convoluted with the way they're using 80 degrees south. Point being is that once the sun goes around the back of Mount Rossman here, if there is a 13.4 degree elevation angle that you're measuring via its shadow, then its shadow length must be over 3 kilometers. If Mount Rossman is 750 meters off of the Union Glacier ice. If it's more than 750, if Mount Rossman is 1450, then the length is longer again. But I'm just going to go with 750 because elevations are taken off of sea level. So it can't be an elevation if it's not from sea level, if you understand what I mean. If they're going to have a 1450 meter elevation to Mount Rossman, then it has to be from sea level. The same for Union Glacier. So that means there has to be only if there's 700 meter elevation for Union Glacier, and there's 1450 for Mount Rossman, that means that there's only 750 meter of Mount Rossman above Union Glacier. And that means that the shadow has to be over 3 kilometers. And if they're only 2 kilometers away from Mount Rossman, then why aren't they covered in shadow? Do you know what I mean? This is the problem. To me, that doesn't make any sense. Now, I could be shown wrong with this. If I am shown wrong with it, I'll take it down. But I'd have to be shown that where they were was not where, as I said, there's claims of 1.5, 2 kilometers been thrown around. I don't know how true that is. But even if they're further away, the shadow we see is not, that does not look in any way like a shadow from Mount Rossman that's in any way 3 kilometers long. Because that is Mount Rossman, 750 meters. So it has to be you're talking 3 times the length of that. So it has to be out here somewhere. If that's 750 meters. You know what I mean? It has to be out here. Even if it doesn't reach where they are, it would have to come out. So I don't know. This is a bit of a funny one, I have to say. So I'm just going to go with it as is. I'll leave it at that, and I'll see what kind of feedback I get. But it comes down to where they were. You know what I mean? And the elevation of Mount Rossman, because it doesn't matter if its elevation is off of the glacier and it's 1450 off of the glacier, because that actually makes the shadow longer because it's bigger, right? It makes the shadow longer. So, I don't know. See what happens with it, I suppose. As I said, I made 2 videos prior to this, and they were more attacking the whole claim and not attacking the 24-hour sun claim or any of that, just attacking it from a different point of view. So it's already debunked. Their original claim, the claim they need to make on our opposition on the Globe side, all that is already debunked by my last 2 videos. But it's already debunked by my last 2 videos through the use of the mounts for the telescopes and cameras. But this is a funny one. There should be a longer shadow. In reality, there has to be. There's not. It just there has to be. That's just the way shadows work and the sun works and whatever else. So, see what happens. Thanks for watching.